Good evening, football fans, Man United fans in particular, and welcome back to the Man United podcast. The big one for Sunday, Man City, Man United. So here we go. We're going to talk a bit about the Rangnick press conference earlier this afternoon, and go into the formation, and maybe talk a little bit about the tactical side of the game. A little bit, although we kind of know how that's probably going to play out. And how are Man United going to get anything out of that game? We'll briefly talk about that. However, we're straight in on the game. We'll talk a bit about the Rangnick press conference now. If anybody did see that, then you'll know kind of how that went. But I will talk about some of the highlights from that press conference. Mainly commenting on the manager. Got a lot of questions, did Rangnick, about the future of the position of the managerial position, whether he will take on the position himself full time beyond the end of the season. Will he have a massive decision on whether the next manager is going to come in? Who is it going to be? Will he have a decision on that? Didn't quite comment on that, and just said, look, my focus is Sunday and the rest of the season, which is fairly understandable, I suppose. He's there to do a job. Until he gets to the end of the season, when his interim managerial sort of career ends, he doesn't take the consultancy role on. So, but then he was, I think, quite wisely, and I think quite reasonably as well, was asked on different occasions in different sort of ways regarding the setup of United. Should this club be allowed to get into this state as it is now, considering how well structured Man City are and Liverpool are. Obviously, he started talking a bit about Pep, the fact that Man City and Liverpool have had a consistent manager, are good, two of the best managers in the world, but consistently had those managers for long periods of time, which has helped their development. Don't disagree with that, but I think Man City have had some good managers previous to Pep as well. With Mancini being there as well before. So, I don't necessarily 100% agree with that, and I think the question was pretty valid in regards to the fact that the structure at United at the minute, not just the managerial structure or the team structure, the backroom staff, the training structure, the facilities, the stadium, how that's been allowed to get to a pretty poor and bleak standard, considering we all call ourselves the biggest club in the world, which we all believe, and we still believe now. But when you actually look at the facilities and the sort of backroom nature of Man United, is it up there with Man City, Liverpool, even Spurs and Arsenal? So that was interesting. And obviously Rangnick sort of batted that away with a straight bat and said, he didn't really want to comment on that. That's not really his concern. Doesn't know the ins and outs with Man City and Liverpool in depth, other than the managers themselves, which is a fair comment. However, I think the media were right to sort of say, look, this is a big club, biggest in the league, biggest in the country. How has it been allowed to get to this stage where managers aren't getting selected till late in seasons? They've had 3 or 4 managers in a sort of a half a decade, 6, 7, 8 years. It has been pretty poor, and I think the question that came to him as well, should the manager not be selected now so that the style of players that they acquire further down the line are acquired? So, getting players that fit the system and the style that the manager that's going to be coming in suits, rather than just getting the manager in and hoping that the players that Rangnick thinks are valid for the team don't necessarily suit the style that the manager that is coming in believes as well. So that was interesting. Obviously, just Rangnick batted that away quite confidently, and that was pretty much it really in terms of that. He got asked that several times across the interview, which he just addressed pretty confidently and pretty pragmatically as well. Was asked about the chances. Obviously, the issue was raised that we're the team that have created most chances than anyone else in the league over the last sort of 2 months. Yet we're not taking those chances. What was the issue there? I think mainly just put that down to kind of fortune and luck than anything else. Said that he was obviously would have been more concerned if we weren't creating those chances. And he's right. I suppose we are still creating chances, and it's just been a bit of fortune or a bit of decision making where we've not carried that over the line. So that was sort of a positive that I think he has improved that aspect of the team and the game. There has been aspects where we could have been better at finishing, and I think we would have been in a better position now coming into the City game if we'd have taken the chances that we should have taken across the last sort of half a dozen games. But that is again what it is. So Cavani back at training. I was asked about that. Second training session, he said. So Cavani could feature. I think he'll definitely be with the squad. He'll definitely be on the bench. Will he start? Definitely not. Will he play? Maybe. But I think that's even doubtful. I think it's more likely that he will feature with the squad and be involved. So that's good to have him back. Obviously, some options there, some options with Ronaldo, options to switch things around if need be. So that's good with obviously being still in Europe as well. So a couple of questions on some other players. He mentioned off the back of the Cavani update that there was question marks against other players, and that must mean fitness wise. He didn't mention any names, so we're unsure as to who that might be. Obviously, I know McTominay had some illness over the last couple of games, which has kept him out at Madrid and then obviously at Watford. And McTominay's on a slight bit of form off the back of the last couple of games prior to that, and obviously the Leeds game where he performed again. So interesting there. Will we see McTominay? I'd like to think so. Not sure who else he's referring to there. Is that a smoke screen for a drop of Maguire? Is that a smoke screen for a drop of Ronaldo? We're unsure. So yeah, we just mentioned some question marks on fitness, which is interesting. Massive support on the Rashford thing. Rashford came up in the press conference and he couldn't speak any more highly of Rashford, and that was a plus point in the fact that he's dealing with that well and dealing that in the way that he should be dealing with that. I think there's been occasions where he's not dealt with situations previous to that or similarly to that in the right sort of way, in a similar sort of way, i.e. when he was speaking about Martial and was quite critical of Martial. He could have quite easily been quite critical of Rashford in his performance, but he's been saying he's been performing in training, he's been up there performing in training, performing well. He's got the physicality, he said, which he has. He's got the pace, he's got everything, he's got the skills, he's quick, he can finish, he's strong, he's got all the attributes that you need to be a quality striker, whether out wide or down the middle, he said. And I don't disagree, and we've seen times where he has performed very well for Man United, but again, the word consistency at Man United is such a key word at any top club, but that's what we're not seeing for some of these players, and Rashford's no difference to that. And hopefully, like I say, it will turn that around. But Rangnick seems to have a lot of time for Rashford, and that was fairly nice to see, I suppose. That he's not giving up hope on him. He knows there's a young player in there who's got a lot of potential, and that's what Rangnick's all about. And hopefully we'll see that turn around for him and for the club. So again, he was asked about managerial issues and managerial selection, and he just kind of batted that away. There wasn't much else that he kind of really discussed, to be quite honest. Nothing specific about any managers. And overall, a pretty flat sort of interview, really. You could see there was some frustration in Rangnick's voice. He knows the importance of the game. He knows Man City will want to win nice and comfortably and convincingly, especially at home. Man City have obviously got a lot to play for, being at home and equally still in a fight with Liverpool, albeit it seemed as if they were going to run away with the title. There's been some slight slip-ups and Liverpool seem to be on a bit of a rise. So, yeah, all to play for. So Man United have really got to grind in there, be patient. I think when you look at the first game of the season that we played against them, we got dominated. I think we were 1-0 down. The second half was looming, and we conceded a sloppy second goal just before half time, which pretty much killed the game. There's opportunities I think we didn't take on the counter, and And I think the first 5 or 10 minutes we looked all okay, and then we sort of slipped, conceded a goal. Both goals that Man City scored weren't convincing, albeit the performance was obviously a lot better than the goals they actually scored in the end. I think they were, a lot sort of a lot better, performed a lot better than the goals that they merited the performance. So yeah, I think obviously they deserved the game. I think Gary Neville called it a slow and painful death, like they'd put us to sleep, as opposed to Liverpool's absolute demolishment of Man United when we played them at Old Trafford. Both were embarrassing in different ways, but I think our style, or at least last season, we seem to have a style which seemed to suit play Man City. We played on the counter, we had quick players. That suited our style. Obviously, we want to be a team that dominates the ball, similar to Man City. Dominate, compete in that world and grab the game and take the game to Man City as well. And unfortunately, I think we've got to be accustomed to the fact that that's not going to happen most of the time. Man City are doing this to teams far superior to Man United at this moment in time. In Europe is in it as well. So, we've got to take the plus points and take the strengths that we've got into that Man City game again. We've done quite well against them in the cups. I'll get some heads up in a second. We've not been particularly fantastic when it's come to the league results in the league head-to-head over the last 5 or 6 games, which is disappointing. But overall, I think we've had some answers for them in the cup competitions. And we just know they're going to overload that midfield. They're going to overload the wings. We were stupid against them in the first game when Ollie played them. Played a completely different system, went narrow, from what I recall, and we just got overloaded on the wings, and it gave Cancelo and Kyle Walker just absolute freedom on both sides to dictate what they wanted to do, and it killed us, and we didn't have any answer to it. So, we'll see a similar pattern. The trouble is, you sort of know what Man City are going to do. It's just very difficult to prevent it. But like I say, they're not on the greatest run at the minute, the most convincing run in the league of Europe. They're obviously doing pretty similar to how they did at the start of the season, but you never know. It's a big game for both teams in different ways, and how the tables have turned over the last 10 to 15 years. But let's have a quick look at the head-to-head situation and the formation. So this is a team I think he may play. He could play with Lindelof in there. I've not put Lindelof on the bench actually. There probably 1 or 2 players I've missed off the bench, but just kind of wanted to mention some of the players that could replace the starting 11 that I've produced here. I mean, I think again it would help us if we went with a false 9 and added another midfielder in place of Ronaldo, and went in here with a Fred or a Matic to give us support in that midfield. We're going to see an overload from Man City, and I think our striking options with Ronaldo, it proved in the first game last November that it didn't work. It didn't work at all, and it was pretty disappointing in the end. So I think he'll probably end up playing Ronaldo, but I would much prefer him not play Ronaldo and go with an extra midfielder and play a false 9 with Fernandes. I think that would suit us, and people might see that as quite a negative tactic. I don't think it is negative. I think it still gives you the balance between cover and moving the ball forward quickly from transition. So and we've still got the pace in both Rashford and Elanga. If it's going to be Rashford and Elanga, it could be Sancho, but I think he'll go Rashford and Elanga. Elanga having the pace similar to Rashford. Sancho liking it more into feet. So no, I think he'll go with that. Like I say, I can't see Ronaldo. I can't see Ronaldo being dropped from this game. But equally, I'd love him to get a goal. I'd love him to play and get a goal, and I think he will start. Players that are missing out, I don't think he'll start with Sancho. I think Lingard could do a job in there as an extra midfielder if we want to play the false 9, but I don't think he'll start with Lingard. Possibly feature if the game's going our way. Fred could play with Fred. Could go with McTominay and Fred and go more defensively. but I think it absolutely caps us defensively. We're sitting in there, if we go with Fred or Matic as well as McTominay, or go with 2 defensive midfielders instead of Pogba, we're just saying to Man City that we're here for a draw. And I think we've got to go out and try to get something from the game. If we get a draw, great. We've got to try and win the game, which is going to be an uphill task. But we need this game. We need this win. We lose. It's very likely we're going to lose the game with the form that Man United are currently in, with the form that Man City are currently in, with the need for Man City to win this, even more so. So they'll be right up for this game. It's going to be tough. So we can't go in there playing for a draw. We'll get beat. We've got to go there to be compact and hope to get and take us chances and get a win out of the game. It's going to be frustrating. I don't think it's going to be the greatest of watches, but let's see. Last season, we won 2-0 at March. I went away. I went to watch the game. I was in Barcelona watching that game with my brothers. What an unbelievable game! McTominay getting the second goal, unbelievable. Martial with the first. Bruno with a little flick over the top, free kick, brilliant. What a game! Old Trafford, 2-0, Man City, brilliant. And that's what we need again. We need a similar performance, similar sort of style, counter-attacking style, frustrate Man City, and try and take the game to them in patches when we get the chances, take the chances, and that's obviously where we've been weak. So that's going to be a test. But I think this will be somewhere close to what he'll play. I don't think he'll play with Shaw. I think he'll go with Tellers. Just because he's a little bit more cover, I think, defensively. Maguire could be Lindelof, but I think he's going to go with Maguire if he's fit, and Varane. Varane's been on a slight bit of better form lately. Wan-Bissaka on the right. I think he's been pretty good. I don't think he'll go with Dalot. I think he wants that defensive cover there with Wan-Bissaka. McTominay and Pogba in midfield. Pogba playing a slightly more advanced role, and McTominay will obviously sit. Could play Fred, could play Matic instead of Pogba and go with 2 defensive midfielders. But again, as I say, that I just think will cripple us. I think Elanga deserves a start. I don't think he's done anything wrong, which means he gets a start over possibly Rashford. But I think he'll go Rashford anyway on the other side because of his pace on the counter-attack. So I do think Rashford will get a start. I think this sort of game is absolutely made for someone like Rashford, where he's going to expect to have space in behind, where Man City are going to commit and overload players and fullbacks to try and score a goal. And when we win that ball, that ball's got to go into Pogba, into McTominay, into Fernandes, and those balls have got to be in behind to Rashford to get on to the end of. So I think he'll go Elanga, Rashford either side, and obviously I think he'll play Fernandes and sitting in behind Ronaldo. Personally, again, like I say, just to kind of reiterate what I've just said, I think it'd be better if we went minus Ronaldo, played false 9 and went for an extra midfielder. I think it would allow Pogba to get more further forward, still give us the cover with an extra midfielder with McTominay, and allow Pogba to get Fernandes to get pushed forward as well, but also drop into midfield and support with the midfield. As you can see, it's been a pretty bleak last sort of 7 games there. Both these are the home games. But it's been a pretty bleak series of games there against Man City. United wins 34, draws 27, City wins 22 across the Premier League. Not particularly great. These were the Old Trafford scores. Obviously, the last game was 2-0 at Old Trafford to City. It's a pretty poor performance really overall. And hopefully that changes. Hopefully we get a win out of this. I think a draw would be okay. But I think we've squandered top 4 with the games that we've let go. The Watford game last week was a big game to win, to lose, or to drop points on, considering the style in which the state in which Watford are currently in, and obviously the chances that we had to kill off that game didn't go that way. And I think we've dropped points against other big sort of weaker teams, Newcastle, Burnley, Villa, Southampton, games where we should have really won and struggled. So yeah, shame really, to be quite honest, this season. And we come to these games now, these games against Man City and Liverpool, with slight underdogs, which is an odd feeling and a terrible feeling to have in a derby. Any derby, no matter what status you're at, always sort of brings a level of competition. So I'm hoping that we're in with a fight, we're in with a chance, we don't concede like we did foolishly at Old Trafford in November last year, that we put up a bit more of a fight. I think that was the disappointing thing in the last game at Old Trafford, that we just seemed to have no fight in us at all. That was a bit of a shame. So yeah, disappointing last year, but hopefully we can make a bit of amends with that, and kick on from there. We'll just very quickly get up the tactic board and have a quick look at that, and see what we can discuss here. So the tactical board, yeah. So I'm not going to pick Man City's team. I don't think even Pep really knows what team he's going to play. So I'm not going to put out names on the Man City team, but I think you can establish which teams which, despite the fact that I've put the names down on them, what the count is in red. But what I think this obviously Man City's biggest strength is their ability to overload. So they'll get Kyle Walker, if it's going to be Cancelo or whoever else on the other side. They'll push the full-backs up. They'll force us back. They'll force us to sit deep, which means it's harder to break. And they'll play the ball in these channels. They'll move the midfielders up. So we're right on the back foot, pushed all the way back to sort of here. Like I say, they'll overload us. They'll be wide, pulling us and creating these gaps in between the full-backs and the centre halves. The midfielders are capable of spraying passes from left to right, both with full-backs and out to the wing forwards, if you want to call them wing forwards. But the key positions are obviously, these positions here. So, this position, I'll undo that. Sorry about that. Oh, that's not the right way of doing it. Yeah, so the key positions really are kind of, this position here and this position here. These are the two sort of key positions for Man City. The two full backs. They'll be absolutely key. So, when they get wide here, balls coming out wide, it's forcing Man United back into this position here where they're waiting for a deep cross. It allows the midfielders to sort of sit in here, ready to move this ball back up to the other side if it gets overloaded. If the midfielders sort of cramp up the fullback on this side, they can move it into these positions here. And they can spray a pass out this way. Once Man United have shifted over, and then next minute they're having to shift back over to the other side. So they're very capable of doing that and moving you from left to right. And that's obviously a bit of a worry that, whether it be Cancelo or Kyle Walker or Zinchenko, these are the players that will, cause the concern. So again, these areas here will be key to prevent Man City from dominating the game. And foolishly, from what do you call it? From the last game, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer played with a very narrow formation. I can't remember the exact formation now, I've not got it up, but I know he played quite narrow. He played with a sort of a diamond formation, which just allowed these positions to take advantage of it even more. I think Cancelo had the game of his life. I know he's been unbelievable anyway this season, but had a very, very good game against Man United where he played these balls in, and I think that was the ball that he played in at the back to Bernardo where he got the goal that probably shouldn't have been a goal. De Gea should have done a little bit better. Shaw let it run, Maguire let it run, and there was a bit of confusion back here, and they nicked the goal just before half time, which made it 2-0 and just killed the game, really, to be quite honest, when I felt we were just sort of getting back into the game as well. So those positions are going to be very key, so it's going to be very important for, obviously Elanga to support on one side if it's going to be Elanga, or the right wing forward, same with the left wing forward to support the left full back and stop that. So there's going to be a lot of good one-on-one battles going on. I think what sort of doesn't help us with the formation that we typically have been seeing, so with obviously Ronaldo sort of playing up front on his own, and we're playing sort of one holding midfielder now, you could argue it's two, but I think obviously Pogba's been playing more advanced, is that Man City kind of play whether depends on how you want it to look really. But they play with a false nine. This guy here isn't a striker. Even Jesus, who's been playing out right or left, but it's typically been whoever, Bernardo, Jesus, whoever it's been, basically a false nine. So this person here is over here, getting the ball, is in this midfield position. But what it also allows is an extra midfielder, which I think is something that we need in our team. So they're able to put 3 midfielders in against effectively 2 midfielders or 3 midfielders. So each man's got a man. But this number 9 is able to come into this midfield as well and get the ball. Is also able to go forward and pull the fullbacks all over the place. Obviously, a fullback, a centre half, what he loves is getting hold of somebody, having a proper number 9 to get hold of. Maguire loves that, being close to somebody, not having somebody he has to chase, somebody's got to, come out here for, or somebody where the ball's up in their half, he's got to think about them running behind. He likes to be close with somebody, holding the shirt, and knowing that, if that's going to be the way it is, and he gets a ball in here, then Maguire can go in and make a tackle. The Man City will not allow that to happen. They know Maguire's pretty stationary, pretty slow. This number 9 is going to come here for the ball. Maguire can't pull himself out of here because it creates gaps. He'll play that back into there, you play that into there. That number 9 position is going to be the key position, but the further beauty with that position, the way that Man City play it, is that this person is not the sole person playing that position as well. So if that's Bernardo, and Bernardo's playing number 9, the false 9 position, and he might come into midfield, somebody else might vacate that position, occupy that position, and Bernardo might tuck in there. So they're all interchanging. If a player goes out on the wide right from the number false 9 position, somebody wide right might come into this position, and that's just where we have this problem where everyone's chasing around. So Man United need to stay zonal. They need to stick their positions. When somebody comes into these zones, they need to strike. They need to make sure they get a man, pick a man up. Obviously, mid-zone, it's difficult. If somebody's sort of in this position, it's sort of whose man's who. That's just where communication's got to come in. That's where Maguire's got to be shouting to tell us, or Shaw. So Varane's got to be shouting to Maguire, and then equally, and Varane's got to be telling whoever the right back is as well. They've got to be communication when men are dropping off. If Varane's got somebody in here and he decides to float out to Wan-Bissaka's position and there's a switch, there's got to be communication. That's absolutely key. But the only way Man United are going to get anything out of this game, so we've talked a bit about Man City there and their strengths. The way that Man City are going to get anything out of this game is ensuring that we counter. We're not going to have the ball. We're not a very good possessive team. Even when we're playing weaker teams, we're not very good with the ball. We're very, very boring in terms of moving the ball around, let's be honest. So we sat back here. Obviously Man City are going to overload these areas. Where when they get the ball, Rashford's going to be sort of in here goal side. Everyone's going to be goal side bar Ronaldo. Obviously the centre halves are going to be up as well. It's going to be very difficult to get anything out of this game. The areas where we're going to have to play balls is when we lose the ball. When we get the ball, when we do win the ball back, it comes deep here. We win the ball back, either a goal kick, or we win the ball back in midfield. It comes out, it's loose. It's difficult, but we've got to try and play the quick triangles, or we've got to try and look forward and into the channels. So as soon as Pogba gets a ball out of his feet, he's got to be looking for the channels. He's got to be looking out, try and draw that on. He's got to be looking out sort of this way, to Elanga, getting Elanga in here, and playing the ball in here. He's got to be looking at that quick ball. And McTominay the same. McTominay's all depending on where the ball is, we've got to be looking out to those channels. Oops, I'll just undo that. Yeah. Oops. I'm not a Gary Neville, am I? I don't get a job on Sky Sports with these level of drawing skills. Oops, done it again. So we've got to be out there playing the balls into those channels. Even Wan-Bissaka has got to be looking down down the channels and tell us as well. That's the only way we're going to stretch Man City. When we get the ball, you know, those players have got to be playing those balls into those channels. Otherwise, we're going to be under the cosh. We've got to play them into the spaces behind. There will be spaces behind. You know, Man City will be up on us. They will be high up, and we've just got to exploit these areas. So there'll be big areas here, to exploit, and we've got to exploit them. You know, big patches in behind them, knocking in slower balls into the back, and getting these guys to run. Obviously, Kyle Walker's got pace, but so has Rashford, and Rashford's got, you know, 5 yards on Kyle Walker. I'm going to favour Rashford. I don't care how quick he is. He's a quick player. Alanga the same. I don't think Cancelo or Zinchenko's got the pace that Alanga's got. And obviously we know the two centre halves, no matter whether it's Stones, Diaz, who I don't think are going to be playing, or Laporte, I don't think they cope with that. Obviously Ronaldo's just got to get what Ronaldo can get. He's got to try and link up with Bruno. You know, if he does get the ball, you know, I think his link up play has been excellent. You know, if he gets the ball in these areas where the ball does come out to him with his back to goal and centre half are closing him down, he's got to try and get it out to these positions here. So just draw that really quickly. He's got to try and get a ball in here or a ball in here, you know, or even something back here or back to the other midfielders. That's kind of where he's got to go. He's got to try and link other people in, which then will sort of allow him to spin in behind and again stretch Man City and get us going forward. Once we get the ball back into these positions, we can play those balls into the channels, and that's kind of what Ronaldo's got to do. It's going to be a frustrating afternoon for Ronaldo, but he's got to stick with it. He's got to keep that attitude. He isn't going to get the chances that he's used to, and he's got to stick with it to give us any sort of chance, really. So that's a very quick analysis of where I think we're at, and I'm going to quickly leave it there. So look, if you've enjoyed that, I've got the, sorry about that, let's get that back up. If you've enjoyed that, I appreciate it. Obviously we've got a big game this Sunday. Hopefully we'll get a result. Not massively confident. We've got to be very disciplined, very structured, very organised, communicate with each other, and hopefully we get the result. Obviously a draw would be a good result, a win would be a fantastic result. We're all expecting that we could possibly lose. That's obviously understandable, but I think generally, you know, we're all expecting to get something from the game and just a better performance, I think, equally as well. So yeah, possibly won't do a watch along on Sunday, but we'll do a reaction video. So catch you for that on the Sunday. If you've watched, thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also comment, because I will comment back if you comment, and appreciate the support. So thanks guys. Catch you in the next one. See you soon.